All right, hello everyone. Greg Mescall here with you, finishing off a great week of At Home with USA Water Polo in our community-themed week. And we finished strong here on a Friday afternoon talking Masters Water Polo. And we're really grateful to have some members of the Masters Water Polo community joining us here. This is just a small sampling of many of the great folks that take part in Masters Water Polo at a variety of age ranges. And so as we kind of kick things off here, I'll just kind of call on each of our guests here to introduce themselves, let us know how they got involved in Masters Water Polo, and then we'll kind of go from there. And as you're introducing yourself, if you'd be so kind to let us know the age group or groups that you play in as well, that would be helpful to our viewers as well. We'll start it off on my left here is Julia. So Julia, if you can kick things off for us here.
Well, thank you. Happy Friday, everyone. I started playing Masters Water Polo after I graduated from Cal. So I played 4 long years, which was awesome, and I just needed a break. But Maggie Kelly and Lynn Woodstock told me, you need to play Masters with Grammy J at Oakland, and I fell back in love with the sport. So it's been great to have the experience to play competitively and also see the program grow. My first Masters tournament, there was 4 women's team, and there was only 1 age group. So now I have been playing, I just graduated up to 40 plus. So that's exciting, but I've been playing 30s and 20s for the last couple years. So it's been amazing to continue playing the sport that I've been playing since I was 14 years old. And I always have to thank Oakland Water Polo for helping grow the women's program. Love you, Grammy J.
Love you too.
And now we'll go over to Greg Enloe. Greg?
Hey guys, I started playing water polo, I should say Masters Water Polo, when I was in high school with Central Valley Water Polo Club. It's a group of guys in Fresno who are all age ranges, and I really enjoyed that. But we had Jeremy Pope, who played professionally in Greece. I actually met Colin Mello, who ended up being one of my former teammates. And now I play 20 and over, and then 30 and over. Usually play 30s with Newport Water Polo Foundation. I'll play with Newport Water Polo Foundation if they're in for the 20s, but I have to say I'm a free agent. I've played with Sasquatch IPA out of Seattle. I've coached and played with a team out of Anchorage. I've played with a team out of Santa Maria. I've played all over the place, and it's definitely a sport that I intend to play forever. I played 4 years NCAA, played professionally Spain, Greece, Slovenia, Greece, Australia, briefly on the national team, and I just love watching the sport grow. I'm also involved with coaching masters. I work with Blue Thunder, and I've had the joy of coaching a 70 and over team, 65 and over, 60 and over, 50 and over, 45 and over. And so each time we go to Masters Nationals, I end up coming back with medals for myself for playing. And then I have like this giant chest full of 50s, 60s, 70s. And I honestly love not only playing, but getting to be part of these male athletes from Blue Thunder who've been doing it forever. And some of them are guys who have played ever since they were in high school and they've never stopped. Some of them took a big professional gap for 20 years to have a family and grow their profession. And then there's some guys like this guy, John Quimby out of Anchorage, who he started, I think, in his late 50s. And he's fully involved in it now. And it's definitely a sport that you can do for a long time. Like as your shoulder goes bad, you move to goalie, or if you get weaker, you stop playing center or defender. It's been really neat to help people find what spot they're supposed to be in. And you kind of give them this lane and like, hey, you're really fast and you're new to the sport. You're going to swim a lot. Or you're really big. You're going to set and defend. And I've really enjoyed kind of delving into and helping out as many different communities as I can. It's been a blessing, and just like this gigantic network of really fun guys from Texas, Chicago, Alaska, Seattle, Oregon, all over the place. So sorry, that probably went too long, but yeah, everybody should go play. It's awesome.
No, you covered a lot of ground there, and it's and we'll delve into this more. But essentially, what we'll find out as we talk here today, and many of this call already knows, if you want to play, there's going to be a team that you can get on. You can bounce around and find your spot. We'll go over to Brian Weaver now. Brian, you've been involved in growing and supporting the Masters game for a long time. Tell us about your journey.
My journey was like a lot of people, high school, college, there was a huge void after college. There wasn't Masters water polo, and I kind of struggled for many years and things to do. As a matter of fact, I did martial arts for 20 years. Thank you, Bruce Lee. And then I did master swimming, but it didn't seem right. It seemed like I just wanted to play water polo. That was my base sport that I enjoyed the most. And I was coaching a master swimming team at the time. And some of the fellas and some of the gals on the team said, let's play water polo one night. I said, okay. So during midweek on a 9 o'clock at night, I got some pool time and 25 people showed up. And from there, I got the brilliant idea, Masters needs to be a real thing. And I coordinated with USA Water Polo and thus developed Masters Water Polo in 1988. I was listening to all your age groups. Yes, I started off at 25 plus, and I can go through the whole gambit all the way up to 65 plus. So I've played in every age group. And Gregory, you gave a great testimonial about the Masters program. So I'm going to cut it off right there and let Greg take back over.
Excellent. Thank you, Brian. Now we'll swing it down to at least on my screen here, Jason Boyce. And Jason, tell us about your entry into Masters Water Polo.
I'm Jason Boyce. I actually play Masters Water Polo for the last 20 years, pretty much since the day I moved to California. When I was driving in off the air from the airport, going to drop my bags off, I saw a big 50-meter pool, and I thought, oh, they'll definitely know who plays water polo around here, and I can get my foot in the door. So I dropped my bags off, I walked down to the pool, and I went up to the first lifeguard I saw. I was like, who can I talk to or get a phone number so I can play Masters water polo? Guy handed me this guy's phone number, Rick Fryer. So if you know Masters water polo, Rick is like the mayor of San Diego water polo for years. Back then, we were playing under a team called Shores, which is a really good, huge club team now for kids, run by Doug Peabody. So Ricky and Doug Peabody were, running this Masters program, and we had a lot of different people, female and male. Played for Shores for about 6 years, and then Ricky got an opportunity to go to Sunset. So he took a couple guys there, and then I got on Sunset hereafter. We played for Sunset for about 5 years, and then we started our own dark side. So we've been playing with Darkside for 8 years, and that's pretty much how I got in the water polo. I went to college on the East Coast, so when I moved out here, I knew for sure I could find water polo a lot easier than Rhode Island. As I probably driving out to Massachusetts to play for Metro if I was still living back on the East Coast.
Jason, we're losing there a little bit on your video and audio, breaking up a bit, but we caught the tail end of that. I think as you're talking about coming from Rhode Island. So we'll come back to you shortly. And now, last but certainly not least, and really one of the more fun stories getting into water polo, Jennie White, aka Grammy J. Jennie, just tell us about your entry to water polo. We know that it wasn't like the rest of this group.
Well, no, mine certainly was a little bit of a different journey. I started playing at age 50. Megan Hernandez, who I'm sure many of you know, taught all of my children how to swim. I swam Masters in a pool where she was the lifeguard. And she started talking about starting, she'd played on the national team, started talking about a place for women to play after college, and said she was going to start a Masters team and I should try it out. And I said, Megan, are you kidding me? All I know about water polo was that yellow ball that's on the back of your car, and that's all I know, and no, I'm not going to do this. There's no way. Well, she was very convincing. As you all well know, she coached actually Julia. So I said, okay, I'll try it. Well, I'm still here. I am 70 years old. And I started out with Oakland, and I am still playing with Oakland. When we started our team, we played at Masters Nationals the first year women were ever allowed to play. It was in 2001 in Stockton. There were 5 teams, 1 division. So I have played on that team. So I've sort of gone up through, I think Oakland, Julia, you have to correct me if I'm wrong. I think Oakland now has a 50 plus. I think that's the highest. So I have played all the way through those teams. I also play with the Soda Moms in Orinda. A few of those moms started out with Oakland, didn't continue. So I play on both of those teams. And I think what keeps me playing is not so much the game as the people, the men and the women all across the board. It's an incredible group of people who are brought together by the sport, but bring so much more to the game and to the community. And I think that's what keeps me going. I love it. It's the most challenging thing I have ever done. I find it even more challenging the older I get, but I will play as long as I can. And I think this year we had hoped to do a 70s mixed. Brian, were we going to do a mixed, or Greg, a mixed division?
At least.
Yeah. So I'll just keep moving up the ladder, and hopefully Oakland players will get a little older. Julia. So that's sort of my journey, and it's been an amazing journey, and I am so grateful to everyone that I have met in this community.
That's excellent stuff, Jennie. Thanks so much for sharing that. I appreciate everyone kind of sharing their story. Now just kind of bounce around and just want to give a little bit of context, I guess, to where Masters Water Polo has gone. A lot of you alluded to the early days of the women's competition and how it's grown. Brian, you know, I know we've talked in the past about being involved, right? I think it was the '88 Masters, right? And El Segundo maybe was the first one. How has this expanded? How have the opportunities expanded for Masters Water Polo? It seems like there's never been a better time outside of a pandemic, but never been a better time to get involved in Masters Water Polo.
Yeah, absolutely. I hosted the first 3 Masters Nationals, and the very first Masters National was in 1988. And I basically sent out 270 entries to all the USA Water Polo and USA Swimming clubs in the United States, and declared a national championship. And 7 teams showed up for the very first Masters Nationals. And I was in a 35 plus group, and we were the only 35 plus team. So we declared ourselves national champions by basis of that. And USA Water Polo Scoreboard Magazine put us on the front page of Scoreboard Magazine saying national champions. Well, that actually started something off there, because everyone's looking at our picture and say, we can beat those guys. Let's get a team together and go. And from that point on, it went from 7. The next year was 11. I think the third year was 23 teams. And I think the largest Masters Nationals we've had have been in the high 90s. So yes, it has been explosive in growth. And, you know, I like to think of it as from a cradle to your last few days. You can play Masters Water Polo. You can play water polo forever. It's a lifetime sport.
That, you know, that exactly. It's been the title of our discussion here, Masters, a lifelong sport. Jason, you talked about moving from the East Coast to the West Coast and seeing a pool and knowing that that'll be the place where they'll know about water polo. I think everyone here would talk about water polo being a community. How much did it help you moving to a new area? You could kind of jump right into a sport that you'd played for a long time, and how much has Masters stayed a part of your community and your friends and all that stuff?
Well, it was an easy transition, but it definitely helped being, you know, you have a common goal when you're playing water polo, and you develop so many new friendships over the 20 years. I mean, my 2 best friends are water polo players. You know, as I said, Rick, he's one of them. But you know, it's a lot different out here from the East Coast, because you have so many more teams. You know, in Rhode Island, there was only 1 team. My team, until Ed Reed took the job at Alabama. And then we had no teams. So I was lucky enough that happened my senior year of high school, and I could, you know, go to college and then move on. But, you know, definitely out here, I've a lot of new friends, even from other teams. You know, Masters Water Polo is great because, you know, you go and see some people you have really good relationships with, maybe 4 or 5 times a year. So it's kind of like a mini vacation. You go to see all your friends, you know, you guys go out, have a good time, and play some water polo. So, you know, I've always looked at that as, you know, cherishable as far as playing back 20 years.
Greg, you talked about your time in water polo at college and then playing internationally. So you played at a very, very high level of water polo. I'm curious about the competitive nature of Masters water polo. So if you're someone that played at a high level and you want to continue to play, I know we have some Olympians that retire and they don't play a Masters because they're like, this is not going to be what it was. And I'm curious how you would describe the competitive nature of Masters water polo, and does that, if you're a competitive person, does that still kind of feed the need to compete, I guess?
Yeah, it definitely does. It's interesting because there's a real spectrum of competitiveness as far as Masters water polo goes. Masters Nationals is definitely the most competitive of the tournaments, but then there's also tournaments all over the place that may not be as competitive, especially if you look at the different brackets. So like the Seattle Otter International Open in Seattle, I've gone up to that the last 4 years, and there's an A bracket and a B bracket, and I play in both, and I kind of coach more in the B bracket, but the A bracket is competitive. There's a team who comes and everybody's played NCAA. There's another team who comes where everybody played NCAA, but it's more like 40-year-olds, and then there's a Masters group out of Portland. And in the B bracket, you'll get a lot of guys who maybe take the sport a little bit more recreational, or they're new to the sport. But what I've found is you can find tournaments that fit your competitiveness, and depending on the type of personality you have, the way that you compete can be different as well. So in a lower, in an easier game or a more novice game, I won't go in and just be as big of a center and big of a defender as I can be. The way that I compete is I'm trying to make sure that I can get the players on my team in the right spots and then get them an opportunity to shoot. So it's more of like a chess match for me. And it's just really fun to see everybody enjoy it. And every time there's a team that you play, there's always going to be, one guy who's really good and maybe some people who aren't as experienced. But from what I've seen, you can really find pretty much whatever you want. And even like in Masters Nationals, there's always going to be at least 2 games that really matches your team's level. There might be a game where one team is a little bit more experienced than the other, but you relatively quickly get to a spot where the games are level, and it's really fun. And from what I can see as far as outside of my own experiences, when I'm watching other teams play, it seems like everybody is having a great time, especially by the second day, usually by the second game. And I love it. I've made a lot of really good friends in all of the games. Like there was this team from Ohio that came to Masters Nationals in Riverside, I think 3 or 4 years ago, and they played phenomenal. And I actually became friends with them after the game. I was like, guys, you guys are very, very good. Keep playing. You're going to get even better. And I said, call me whenever you're out in California. I'll play with you. And the next year they called me, and I played with them in another tournament down in Southern California. And it was a blast. So in short, yes, it can be super competitive or it can't be. It's really up to you. And there's very few tournaments. I don't think there's ever been a tournament that I've gone to and said, I'm never going back to that. Like, it's just, you run into really good, fun people and you make friends, and it's a spot where you can swim or you can compete. And I don't know, I've always loved it. So.
Julia, you've played on Masters clubs that have been very committed to practice and going to tournaments, that sort of thing. Kind of getting at the point of the person that maybe has not done Masters or they've only dabbled in it. Can you kind of give a sense of the sort of commitment that your teams have made to it? What does that look like? Practices, annual competitions. How invested, how involved are you?
Well, I mean, we're involved. So I play for the Olympic Club now. There's a progression from going to Cal and then moving to San Francisco. Obviously, Oakland Water Polo was one of our beginning women's team who helped us just grow it. But now it's like you're so competitive in college. Like if you're on the level of being on the national team or the Olympic team, or someone who may not play, you may be on the club team. Where Masters is giving you the opportunity to play again. And it doesn't matter if you're a starter or if you're on the bench. Like Masters, you just don't care. You can make that mistake because we're not going to Olympics. Sorry, no offense, you guys, but like we practice once a week. We have jobs. But I think one of the things that put in perspective for me about a Masters water polo was a teammate of mine. She's younger. She didn't play that much when she was at Cal, and we got to play in a Stanford tournament, which was like the worst idea ever. We're playing Stanford. This is a college tournament. And she was so excited because she never got to play in that tournament. And with Masters, she did. So it's just, you get all these great opportunities that you may not have had when you were playing in college. But now we get to, when you turn 30, we get to go to World Masters we were just in South Korea last year. And like, you get excited to get older because you get to play in these like fun tournaments. And yes, we're competitive, but it's also about just being with your friends. And it doesn't matter what level you are, we're all just going to be there and having a good time. And you're not going to get yelled at by a coach. You know, I think that's what's like so fun about it, but also bringing back those friends who are now your friends and they were rivals, like your Stanford girls that I hated, but now they're some of my best friends. And we get to play together on a team. And like any Masters team, you're getting people from all different schools that may have been once rivals, but now we're teammates, which is exciting, and you become friends. So I think it's very important, and you become a family. That's the key. And it's okay to only practice once a week, right? Like I don't warm up anymore. It's just for fun. I don't. It's the Masters warm up, right? You just jump in when game time. So yeah, I mean, I think it's we're just very fortunate to grow this program, especially with women. Like I started at a time that NC2As was my junior year, first time ever for women. So just to see it grow and get more women involved is just amazing. So I'm excited. I'm glad I don't have to play 20s anymore. I'll be honest with you. But I'm excited to, be in the older demographic, I guess, for Masters.
Jennie, you had talked about getting into it at age 50, and now it continues to be the toughest thing you've ever done. I'm curious for your non-water polo friends and family, when they've asked you, why are you doing this? What is it about this sport? You could do something less difficult and still get exercise. What do you tell them? Why do you stay involved?
Because they know me all too well. This is my personality. But they know that I love it. And Lindsay, our youngest daughter, played. She started playing on Megan Hernandez's youth team. That's when I started it. And I wanted to continue, hoping that she would continue to play. She has on and off. Her job as a teacher has demanded a lot of her. But I think they know that my personality is a lot about teamwork. I really believe in teams in anything that I have done. So the fact that this is a team sport is so appealing to me. And I like the challenge. I like to learn things. I learn something new every day about the sport. And as I said, I think when you belong to this community of friends, like Julia is the same age as my son. She's a friend of my son's, but the age means nothing. She doesn't treat me any differently in the pool than anyone else. I mean, she's a little bit forgiving, but if I do something wrong, she would tell me. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about this, is that we are all different ages. We're all competitive. You wouldn't play this sport if you didn't have a competitive nature. And I wasn't able to take advantage of Title IX. When I was at Stanford, there was no Title IX. Probably I would have played a sport. I didn't excel in any sport particularly. I was raised in a family where our dad said, he was very athletic, said, I want you to be able to say, when you go to spend the weekend with someone and they say, do you want to do this, that you know how to do something a little bit. You don't have to do anything exceedingly well, but that you can participate. And I think that was sort of how I have been about water polo as well. I don't need to be the best on the team. I just need to enjoy it and to enjoy the people. And I think that's what keeps me coming back. We've all felt so desperate during this pandemic to not see each other. I mean, not desperate, that's not quite the right word, but on some level, not to be close to people. And I think we've realized how much we all mean to each other.
Yeah, the camaraderie of the whole Masters group cannot be underestimated, right? These teams get back together. Every year that I'm at Masters Nationals, it seems like sometimes the competition is secondary to everyone being excited to see each other, to hang out for a couple of days, and then, oh, by the way, we'll play some games. Everyone here nodding your head. Jason, just as you think back on this, do the friendships, does the camaraderie mean more than the actual sport itself at this point?
Absolutely. Water polo is kind of secondary. The older you get, the more you're mentally still there, but your body starts breaking down. And, I certainly like, going to tournaments just to see people I haven't seen in a while. You just develop a lot of friendships over 20 years. And you only get to see these people a couple times a year, depending on which tournaments you go to. Yeah, I'm still competitive, and I certainly want to win. I don't go there. There's not a game I don't play not to win. But, I don't really get upset anymore if I lose like I did back in the day. Because the older you get, the less it means. And it's more about, hanging out with your teammates. Because with my team, we don't practice together, because we're all over the country. So we just get together during tournament time. So even players on my team, I don't get to see only but a couple times a year. So, it's very fortunate to be able to travel and go see these, people that I consider friends.
Yeah, you bring up a great point. The hidden, and it's not hidden to this group, but the hidden secret to Masters and to any sort of activity like this is that it forces you to see your friends. When you get older, you just don't have the time. There's just nothing, Julie, you were talking about college and being around people. Once you leave that environment, there's nothing that forces you back that same way unless you make plans and put it on the calendar. Brian, you've been scheduling this stuff for a long time. Is that always been one of your big pitches? Like, hey, do this because you're going to get to see the people you miss?
It speaks for itself, and this was one of the hidden benefits of starting up the Masters program. I've watched a lot of people come back after many, many years of layoff, like myself, and how nervous they actually are. Their first game, and then you can see after their first game, their second game, they get into the routine and they feel much better. And then actually by the time, after their second or third game, the second day, they're back into the groove. My experience is a little bit like Jason in that I don't get a chance to play in any games throughout the year. I'm a high school coach. I coach girls, I coach boys, I coach swimming, and I coach club. And so I get very, very few opportunities to play, but I do have the coach's eye when I get in the water. And as I get older, I know what I'm supposed to be doing. I just can't do it like I think I used to be able to do it. And that's something that, some of you will come to face after a while. But what's really interesting is one of the things I enjoyed the most of watching Masters over the years is seeing all our heroes in the sport come back and participate again. And I've been very, very fortunate to be on a team with heroes, and it's exhilarating. These are the people who are in the Hall of Fame, and it's exhilarating to be in a situation to be a hero to heroes and be at their same level. And it's just a phenomenal experience that it's indescribable. So for me, the only time I actually get to play games is at Masters Nationals, and that first game is really pretty rough. You're really scared, and I basically fret for 6 months that first game. I trained all year for water polo, but without playing games. So you run, you lift weights, you get the sparklets bottle out in the pool, you do all kinds of things like that. But there's nothing like the game. And so for those of you that have an opportunity to scrimmage, I envy you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, thanks, Brian. Brought up a good point there about getting to play against legends and against some of the greats of the game. That is a very unique thing to water polo, because think about it. Think about other sports out there. For example, and I know Greg Enloe is a fellow basketball fan. Unless we pay thousands of dollars, we're never getting on the court with Michael Jordan, or in Greg's case, Dan Marley. but you could play against one of the all-time greats like Brenda Villa, or you could have to guard Ryan Bailey in the pool. That is a unique thing to water polo. The greats are accessible; they are around. Julia, can you speak to that a bit? Obviously, being a part of the Olympic Club, you've been alongside no small amount of legendary players.
Yeah, I mean, we're definitely getting old as we're called legendary. So especially these women like Margie Dingledine, Brenda Villa, as everyone knows, and Bernice Orweg are all part of our team. And it's just so much fun. And, you know, in our 20s, it was great. We're getting guidance, we're learning from each other, but we've been playing together for, you know, close to like more than 10 years now. And it's just been amazing. We're also competitive, but it's also great for the younger generation to see that you get to play with these legendary athletes that were your heroes when you were younger. And for us, they were, you know, heroes to us, even though we're the same age. So it's just been great. And then, you know, like we go to world championships, Brenda's like, I've never lost a world championship. I'm like, oh gosh, if I lose this is going to suck. But, you know, it's just great to be a part of it. And also just to continue showing that you can play water polo at any age and with anyone. So it's been a great experience for me playing with those legends.
Yeah, I can only imagine. Jennie, you had touched on it a bit earlier, getting a chance to meet people, jumping into the sport at 50, you know, obviously you had your kids involved in some way and you had some friends, but I imagine this has immersed you into a whole new kind of community. Now you're 20 years in, I think you said. How would you kind of describe the closeness, the bond that you've developed that you get to revisit every time you play Masters water polo?
Well, for me, I do get to practice, I love to practice. So I practice, you know, 3 or 4 times a week. At my age, you need to practice 3 or 4 times a week. But I think like Julia, and by the way, Julia is a legend of her own. She is an incredible water polo player. I've watched her for many years. And I think one of the amazing things is when I started playing, Julia and Fauna and Petey, they were all at Cal, but they'd come out and play with us once in a while because Lynn Whitstock is on our team. And I just was in awe of who they were. And not only as water polo players, I would go to every Cal game and watch them. I don't know if Julia knew that, but I would go to every game. I was just in awe, but they treated me as an equal. And I was, you know, like I said, they're the same age as my son. So I think this bond, we have this bond that brings us together, which is water polo, but the bond of friendship. We have all been through horrible tragedies, Julia in particular, one recently. We've been through marriages, children. I now have grandchildren. And I think that bond is incredible. I could call any water polo player, even if I didn't know them very well, I could call them at any time of the day and they would give me the help that I want. And I think that is the community that this sport has given me. And as I said, I will be forever grateful for the friendships and this bond.
Well said, Grammy, and I'm sure we'd be remiss with not, you know, mentioning the passing of Brigitte recently from Olympic Club, and we posted about that on our Facebook page as well. Certainly, our thoughts continue to be with her friends and family, and I'm sure, Julia, an emotional time for you and the rest of everyone that knew her well. So that's what comes with building a community like Masters Water Polo. You get really close to each other, and you smile through the good times, and the sad times hurt a little bit more as well. So I'm sure that's been challenging to work through, but thanks for bringing it up, Grammy J and Julia as well. Just a couple of more thoughts here as we kind of wind things down. Really appreciate everyone spending some time here. Greg, just wanted to ask your thought about kind of the fitness part of this. You know, we've talked about you get to see your friends, you get to travel, you get back together. Can you speak to a bit just the benefits of Masters water polo and how that helps keep you in shape?
Yeah, I mean, every time I do a Masters tournament, I feel like I actually have weighed myself. I'll lose like 5 pounds over the weekend. So that's a direct benefit. But what I've noticed, especially as I look and I see, I can speak from my own experience, but I can also speak on what I see from other Masters players. Like I'm doing Zoom workouts, and there's a group of Blue Thunder guys who are all 50 plus. They're actually the ones who sign on are 60 plus, and they're doing the workouts with me. And it's because they have that goal of Masters Nationals, and they have a goal of winning Masters Nationals. So anytime we have a carrot dangling out in front of us, it tends to mean that we'll work a bit harder in the present day. So I've seen, up in Anchorage, I know a lot of those guys, they're swimming 4 to 5 times a week because they want to get good at the sport. Same thing with Blue Thunder, they're signing in for workouts. My wife and I, we like to be able to play, and we like to be able to move up and down the pool. So like I have a canal that's a quarter of a mile from the house. We jump in and we'll swim against the current, especially with all the pools being closed. We also go up to lakes and we'll swim in lakes, or, pass the ball around there. So for me, it's done a lot. Like I tend to gain weight if I stop moving. And by playing Masters water polo, I at least keep somewhat semblance of fitness. So it's nice because it doesn't hurt your joints as much. I mean, yeah, we'll have shoulder problems and whatnot, but as long as we're not doing the Masters warm up, we can hang through the games and whatnot. So it's been a blessing for me, and I hope that I will stay fit because I want to just always be able to play. So
that's an excellent endorsement, Greg. See your friends and lose weight. Masters water polo. That should be kind of our tagline, right? So thanks for that. I'm just looking at the Facebook comments here. Grammy J, no surprise, a lot of love for you in the Facebook comments here, referencing that you not only come to practice, but you bring baked goods to practice. Is this true, Jennie?
Yeah, yes, I do. I took cookies to every single game in practice when my daughter played, and I take cookies because they can't kick me off the team otherwise. I take cookies to every single practice, and if we travel, yes, I do. And now people are getting picky about the cookies they like. So, yes.
Hey, I got a spot on my team if you want to play.
Perfect. I'm there.
All right. We expect cookies, though.
That's excellent.
Okay.
And yeah. Also, another comment noting that Julia, you are also a legend. So want to make sure you pass that along. Dave Alberstein checking in, says it's his favorite tournament to referee. Started refereeing these in 2007. Hasn't missed one since. So a lot of love for the Masters community here. The Ohio Squirrels and the Columbus squad also in Ohio got some love as well. So before we go here, just want to get kind of a final thought from everyone. Just kind of your, if you were going to kind of speak to somebody and say, try this thing out that I really love, whether it's a former player that you played alongside or someone that you just know and you think they'd like it. We'll start with Jason. What would be your kind of little elevator pitch? Hey, let me tell you about this thing that I do and why you should do it. What would you say to somebody?
I'm not sure, but they would need to be a swimmer. I couldn't go to any of my friends that played football and said, hey, let's just try this swimming thing. Only 95% of the people on earth can only survival swim, never mind, swim laps like it is for polo. So they would definitely have to be a swimmer. And I think the two go hand in hand because swimming's very individual, and most swimmers that want to play a team sport, water polo is that outlet. But yeah, all my friends are water polo players, but if anybody outside the group, it'd be a really hard time to get them into our sport unless you're an excellent swimmer. So hopefully the people are younger, that I would be talking to, and you got to start in high school. I mean, you just have to if you want to be any good at water polo, or even younger. I
don't know, Grammy J over here, starting at age 50. You can jump in late.
Yeah. There's an exception to the rule.
Yes. Brian, you've had to do this a lot where you try and get folks involved. What's your advice to get people in the mix for Masters water polo?
If the camaraderie and the play doesn't get you, please come and attend a Masters social. It is a blast. The USA Water Polo staff does a great job, and it is the event of all events. And my closing comment would be, play water polo, live longer.
Excellent. I like that idea too. So we got lots of positive attributes here for water polo. Master Social, always a good time. That winery in Livermore last year, that was a great event. So looking forward to the next one of those whenever we can have it again. Julia, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, for those who've taken a break from the sport, it's great to come back, to fall back in love with it. It was why we played it, starting from high school or, age group. That's really where I fell back in love with the sport again when I started playing Masters. But I also think, I'm glad you touched upon the social, is you never go to a tournament when you're younger or in college that all the teams are together and you just get to meet new people. And I think that's the best part of it, is we're there for fun, but we're also there to play a sport that has opened up so many doors for us too. And, like friendships, marriages, new jobs, getting to play. You move to San Diego and there's, I can play with the dark side, it's just exciting to meet new people. And I just think you just need to go in, and who cares if you're not in shape? Granted, you have to know how to swim, but it's just for fun. And I think Masters Nationals, and I hope it happens, that we get to do that this year.
You bring up a great point. When you're in the college game, if Cal plays at UCLA, they're not hanging out for dinner the night before the game, and it's not all love beforehand. You're trying to win that one game. Masters, it's a much different vibe. Greg, what would you say to folks? And you touched on some of this already today, but what's your quick pitch to get people involved in the thing you love?
I would say just go for it. And especially in the older age groups, I actually slightly disagree with Jason. I don't think that you have to swim. There's even an athlete that I was in contact with, Matthew Johnson, who he went out to go play. And he told the coach, yeah, I can swim. And then he jumped in, he swam. And the coach said, no, I mean, like, you need to be able to swim, not survival swim. So he joined a national swim team, and he swam for 6 months. He came back, and then he was playing, and he ended up becoming, I think he was the president of the club for a little bit. And, the sport, age isn't important. It's about adapting. And there's amazing athletes who, as long as you want to play and you're going to put that time in, there's a spot for you. If you can shoot, you're an outside. If you're big and you wrestle, you play on the inside. If you're long and you're big, you got long arms, you can play a goalie. I personally don't think that you've had to have played for a really long time. It's more about the passion, and you're going to get something out of it that's great for you if you're willing to jump in. And I was actually talking to a high school athlete right now he hasn't played yet, and he's nervous about playing. And I'll just share my experience of how I started. I had a swim coach that said, Enloe, you swim like a moose. You should try water polo. He said, practice is at 2:00 today. So I showed up at 2:00, and that was the end of practice. And then the guys on the team, they said, hey, we just finished, but if you want to play, come tomorrow. We have a game in Fresno. And I showed up. I got in a car with a bunch of guys that I didn't know. I was in the middle seat in an old Pinto. This big guy put his arm around me and said, bet you can't move my arm. And I said, I bet you I won't try. And my first game, never played it, never seen it. All I knew was that yellow ball that they have, they want to put it in our cage. We want to take it from them. And when we get the ball, we're trying to put it in their cage. And if I could just suggest anything to you guys, if you're even considering playing, just show up. Like, strip away the fears and just show up. Swimsuit, swim trunks, whatever. Someone's going to be able to help you out. If you put in the energy, they're going to give you the direction. And this community has been phenomenal. So everybody can do it. It's all about reaching your potential, whatever that is. And I strongly suggest you guys try, because I agree, it does extend your life.
That's excellent. And Jennie, your thoughts?
I would just say, as Greg said, try it. You don't know what you are missing until you try it. Come out to one practice. And I can tell you, the soda moms, many of those women weren't swimmers. I wasn't a swimmer. I was always swimming, but I wasn't a competitive swimmer. I didn't even know how to go off a starting block. But I look at the teams in the peninsula we play against. Many had never put their hands on a water polo ball. And there is so much to gain. And all I say is come out and try it once, maybe twice. And if you don't like it, fine. But don't give up an opportunity by not trying it. And I think the soda moms in the peninsula teams are incredible women, and we have such friendships in addition to the ones I've made with, Julia and Oakland and all of those people. So it's a win-win all the way around.
Excellent. Great points all around. Really, really positive stuff, and awesome reasons that everyone should really hear and listen to about why we should support Masters Water Polo. And if you haven't gotten involved in it, give it a shot. I want to thank all of our guests here today: Julia, Greg, Jenny, Brian, and Jason. Thanks for joining us. You can learn more about Masters Water Polo at usawaterpolo.org and the Masters Nationals and all that good stuff. Rescheduled for later in the year, and more info on that to come. But thanks again for joining us. Have a great rest of your Friday.